Hey, it's Craig back with another Mortgage Minute for you, and a question that I got recently from somebody that was looking at purchasing a home, which I thought, that's a good question. I bet a lot of people are wondering that as well. And that is, hey, look, I know that I need maybe some money for a down payment, or maybe I'm doing a loan program that doesn't require down payment, but what about closing costs? How much are closing costs, and what are my options to get closing costs paid? So here's the way to think about closing costs. With every mortgage loan that you do, there are going to be closing costs associated with that transaction. And I know a lot of times people say, well, how much is that? Well, it can vary by the loan type, but generally around 2 to 3% of the purchase price is a good estimate to use for closing costs. Now, again, if you want to know specifically on a transaction, give us a call. We can certainly nail that number down for you. But generally between 2 to 3%, it depends on your sales price, is what you're looking at for closing costs. But here's a trick that a lot of people use, and I say a trick, it's not really a trick. I mean, it's being upfront, but you can have the seller pay your closing cost as long as you negotiate that as part of the sales contract. So for example, if I'm selling my house for $200,000, and let's just say my closing costs are going to be $5,000 on that, just for example, then I can write the contract with the seller to say, hey, look, I will pay you $200,000 for your house, and in exchange, I need you to pay $5,000 towards my closing cost. And if the seller agrees to do that, boom, now you've got the closing costs taken care of. And one question we get a lot is, hey, do sellers typically pay closing costs? And here's my answer to that. As long as you pay them enough for the house, they will pay your closing cost. So for example, if I'm selling my house for $200,000 as a seller, and really I would take $195, I listed it for $200, but in reality I'd take $195 for it. If somebody came to offer me $200,000 for my house and asked me to pay $5,000 towards closing cost, in effect as the seller, I'm netting that $195. So I would be more than happy to pay $5,000 towards closing costs because I'm still getting the $195. See, you're going to pay me $200,000 for the house, but I've got to turn around and pay $5,000 towards your closing costs. So at the end of the day, I'm really walking away with $195,000. And in this case, as the seller, that's what I was willing to take anyway. So you know what? Yeah, that's great. I'd love to do that. So that's the way you've got to think about it. As long as you pay enough for the house to the seller will be more than happy to pay your closing costs. There are circumstances to where maybe it's a really hot property and the seller wants $200,000 and they've got 6 people lined up willing to pay them $200,000, not asking to pay closing. Look, in that situation, you're probably not going to get the seller to pay closing because, well, they don't have to. But on most homes, that's not typically the case. So if you have any questions about that, about ways to figure out ways to get closing costs taken care of, give me a call. There's many other strategies that we can look at for you and have done in the past for clients, and I would love to help. So my number is 615-498-5626. That's 615-498-LOAN. Thanks for watching.